He's gone. Not dead. Worse, I don't even know if he still counts as a person anymore. If you're watching this, if this even makes it online, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about my brother. This could happen to anyone. Especially if you're the kind of person who stays up too late, who digs into places online you're not supposed to find, who thinks curiosity isn't a sin, just a skill. That's what we thought too. Now I can't sleep. Not really. Every time I close my eyes, I hear his voice, but it's wrong. It glitches, like a recording layered over something deeper, something hungrier. And I know I'm being watched. There's this little red light on my webcam that flickers sometimes, even when my laptop's closed. My phone battery drains like it's running 100 apps at once, even after a reset. And last night, I swear I saw a reflection of someone standing behind me. But when I turned around, there was nothing. That's the thing. This isn't just paranoia. I wish it was. Paranoia would mean my mind is broken. But this is something else. My brother, Nick, disappeared 2 weeks ago. No missing persons report, no news article, not even a digital footprint. It's like he never existed. But I remember. I know he was real. We lived together, ate dinner together, fought over stupid things. And then one day he was just gone. No clothes packed, no messages sent. Just an empty room and a still warm laptop screen with a single message burned into the monitor. Session complete. I tried to dig into it. I really did. I followed the trail he left behind. Half-deleted messages, old bookmarks, screenshots he probably thought he erased. It all pointed to one thing. A dark web therapist. No name, no credentials. Just a link passed between broken people like a digital urban legend. He'll fix your mind, one post said. He rewrote my trauma, said another. But sometimes, people don't come back the same. And now I can feel it. Something's wrong with me, too. Like a signal buzzing under my skin. Like I'm being tuned into something I was never meant to hear. I shouldn't be saying this online. I know that. I don't think I'll be alive much longer. But someone needs to know the truth. Because if you've ever searched for help in the dark corners of the internet, if you've ever clicked something you didn't fully understand, you might already be marked. And if you have heard of this therapist before, it's already too late. Before everything fell apart, things were fine. Not perfect. Nothing ever is. But we had a rhythm. Just two brothers sharing a cramped 2-bedroom apartment, ordering takeout too often, arguing over who forgot to take the trash out, binge-watching horror movies, and making fun of how fake they looked. Nick used to laugh at those stories. Ghosts, demons, cursed websites, he loved them. He'd call them cheap jump scares for lonely people, even though he was usually the one jumping. He wasn't like me, not really. I've always been more cautious. More anxious, maybe. Nick had this effortless confidence, like the world couldn't touch him. He had friends everywhere, got invited to parties I'd never hear about unless he came home drunk and bragged. But under all that noise, there was something quiet in him. Something I didn't see until it was too late. It started small, subtle. He stopped going out as much. Said people were too fake, too surface level. That everyone's just wearing meat suits pretending they're okay. I thought it was just burnout. Social exhaustion. We all hit walls. But then he started sleeping less. Staying up until sunrise with his laptop glowing like a portal in the dark. He stopped laughing at our usual horror movies. Started calling them naive. Like they were missing the real monsters. There was one night. I remember this so clearly. It was raining hard, and we were watching some crappy found footage thing. I was making jokes like usual, and Nick just stared at the screen. Then he said, "You know what's scarier than ghosts? Thinking your mind isn't yours anymore." I laughed. Said, "What? You afraid of therapy now?" And he actually flinched. That was when I noticed he hadn't been talking to anyone for weeks. No texts, no calls. I checked his social accounts. He'd wiped them. His friends thought he was just taking a break. But I knew better. I lived with him. I saw the hollow look in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. Like he was unraveling one thought at a time. One night, I walked past his room and heard him whispering. Not muttering. Not humming. Whispering. Like he was reciting something under his breath, but in a language I couldn't quite place. Rhythmic. Almost melodic. I thought he was just losing sleep. That maybe the isolation was warping him a bit. I tried to talk to him. Asked if he was okay. Told him I was worried. He looked up at me with this strange expression. Not anger. Not fear. Just detachment. Like he was half here, half somewhere else. And he said, "I found someone online who gets it. Not a normal therapist." That was the last normal night we ever had. I remember the first time I really saw what Nick had gotten himself into. It was late, around 2:30 a.m. I had woken up because I heard this strange, pulsing sound coming from down the hall. Not music exactly, but this soft, repetitive thrum, like a heartbeat wrapped in static. I thought he'd fallen asleep with one of those lo-fi streams running again, but something felt off. His door was cracked open just enough for the light to spill out. Not the warm yellow of his desk lamp. This was a pale, bluish-white glow that flickered like a dying monitor. I pushed the door open just a little more, quiet, careful, and saw him sitting perfectly still at his desk. Headphones on, eyes locked on the screen, not blinking. He didn't even react when I said his name. I had to repeat it, louder, before he finally turned. The glow from the monitor cast these sharp, unnatural shadows across his face. He looked like someone halfway through becoming someone else. "What are you watching?" I asked. He pulled the headphones off slowly, like he wasn't sure whether to speak. Then, quietly, he said, "It's not a video. It's a session." I stepped closer and looked at the screen, but there was no face. Just a shifting pattern, lines and shapes that moved in ways your brain didn't want to follow. I couldn't make sense of it, like it was coded to resist understanding. "That's a therapist?" I asked, half laughing. He nodded. "A real one. Not the kind that asks you how you feel and scribbles notes. This one doesn't talk. He listens. Listens to what? To what's underneath." He said it so casually, like he'd just explained how Bluetooth works. I asked him where he found it, and he hesitated, then said, "It's not public. You need an invite. There's a forum. You have to pass a filter. Prove you're broken in the right way." That's when I started getting worried. Not just about what he was doing, but about how deeply he'd committed to it. He wasn't just trying something new. He believed in it. "What's his name?" I asked. Nick smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "He doesn't have one. He has a frequency." That phrase hit me weird. It didn't sound like metaphor. It sounded like fact. I asked if I could try it. Part of me just trying to understand, part of me terrified for him, but Nick shook his head hard. "You wouldn't understand unless you've been processed," he said. Processed. That word stuck with me. Not helped, not healed, processed. Like he was just raw material being shaped into something else. Over the next few days, he got weirder. Not dramatically, just little things. He stopped using contractions, like his speech was being edited in real time. He stared at blank spaces, like he saw things I couldn't. He started folding pieces of paper into identical shapes. Dozens of them, all hidden under his mattress. One night, I came home to find the mirrors in the apartment turned around to face the walls. When I asked why, he said, "Reflections aren't neutral." I tried to talk to him, really talk to him, but every time I brought up the sessions, he shut down. Not angry, just unreachable. Like the person I knew was behind a firewall. He said things like, "The session opens your code. I can feel the noise being stripped away. There's nothing wrong with me anymore, just leftover thoughts." And the way he said it, like it was all so obvious. Like he had already crossed into something I couldn't follow. I started checking his browser history. It was always clean. Too clean. But once, just once, I caught the tab before it vanished. It wasn't a URL, just a string of symbols I couldn't even copy. And next to it, a timer, counting down. He slammed the laptop shut before I could ask. "I told you," he said, "you're not ready to understand." And maybe I wasn't. But I knew something was pulling him further away from reality. Something dressed in the skin of therapy, but older and strand. I started writing everything down. Not because I thought anyone would believe me, but because I needed proof for myself. I kept a private log on my phone at first, and then, when things got worse, I started posting on Reddit. I figured if something happened to me too, at least the record would be out there. Maybe someone smarter than me could piece it together. Or maybe someone else already had. I'll get to that. Things with Nick didn't just go bad overnight. It was like watching a structure slowly fracture. First a crack, then a split, then the collapse. And I kept telling myself it was stress, or burnout, or some new edge case form of internet addiction. But deep down I knew, whatever that therapist was doing to him, it wasn't helping. He started sleeping with the lights on. At first, I figured it was just paranoia. Then I noticed he wasn't actually sleeping, just lying there, motionless, staring at the ceiling like he was buffering. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found a stack of printer paper, dozens of pages covered in symbols. Not writing, not even a language, really. Just tight, spiraling shapes that almost moved if you looked at them long enough. He never explained where they came from, never even acknowledged them. But I caught him redrawing the same pattern on his arm and pen. And once, in what I now recognize as a moment of terrifying honesty, he told me he dreamed of data bleeding into his skin. Not metaphorically, literally. Streams of code pressing against his body, sinking through like ink through water, changing him from the inside. He said it calmly, like it wasn't a nightmare, like it was something sacred. That same week, I caught him staring into a turned-off monitor for over an hour, just watching the black screen like it might blink first. When I asked him what he was doing, he said, "The session continues even when it's quiet. That's how you know it's real." I tried confronting him, really confronting him. Not tiptoeing, not dodging, just laying it all out. "Nick, I don't know what this thing is, but it's not therapy. It's not helping. You're scaring me." He looked at me with these flat, glassy eyes and said, "You're only scared because your architecture hasn't been corrected." I shouted at him then, told him he sounded insane, that he needed to stop, to delete whatever this thing was. He just turned away and mumbled, "Noise doesn't delete itself. It has to be replaced." That's when I knew I wasn't talking to Nick anymore. Not completely. It was still him, his voice, his face, his mannerisms, but the way he used them was wrong. Like watching someone imitate being human, but forgetting the tiny flaws that make us real. Around this time, I started researching, looking through dark web forums, archives of lost Reddit threads, even digging into tech conspiracy boards I used to laugh at. I needed something to explain what was happening. Then I found it. A deleted post from 6 months ago. Title: Neural Mirror Therapy Protocol. Anyone else been contacted? The user who posted it had one comment. "It feels like someone's building a better version of me behind a mirror. I can't tell which of us is the original anymore." That post was gone the next day. No account, no cache, nothing. But I screenshotted it. And if you're watching this, check the forums. Search Mirror Protocol or Session Fragment Frequency. If the posts are still up, they won't be for long. They vanish fast. Like someone or something doesn't want them found. I printed that screenshot and showed it to Nick, hoping it would shake something loose. Hoping he'd see himself in that post. But he just stared at it for a long time. Then he smiled, almost sadly, and whispered, "I wonder which version of me they met." That night, he taped black paper over every mirror in the apartment. When I asked why, he said, "Because sometimes they look back too soon." The night he vanished didn't feel like a horror movie. There were no screams, no blood, no flickering lights or sudden crashes. It was quiet. Too quiet, in hindsight. I woke up around 3:17 a.m., oddly specific, but I remember the time exactly because I'd started keeping track of those weird nights. I kept a notebook by my bed. I wrote that time down. What woke me wasn't a noise, but the absence of one. Like the apartment was holding its breath. No hum from the fridge. No cars outside. No wind. Just this deep, unnatural silence that pressed in from all sides. Then I heard it. A soft clicking sound from the hallway. Not footsteps. Not doors. Just clicks. Like fingers tapping plastic in a pattern I couldn't follow. I got up and stepped into the hallway. The air felt colder than it should have, like someone had left a window open, but everything was shut. No draft. No reason for it. The walls felt damp, like condensation was forming, even though it was the middle of August. Nick's door was wide open, and his room was freezing. I stepped inside and instantly felt a chill crawl down my spine. The desk fan was off. The AC wasn't running, but the temperature had dropped like I'd stepped into a walk-in freezer. His bed was untouched. No sheets pulled back. No sign of a struggle. Just an open laptop sitting on the desk, still warm, humming softly, the screen pulsing with static and a blinking message in the center. Session complete. I said his name. Quiet at first, then louder. Nothing. I checked the bathroom, the kitchen, the closet. Gone. Just gone. No packed bag. No wallet missing. Shoes still by the door. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I tried again, and again. On the 5th try, the screen went black, and stayed that way. Dead. Like the call had triggered something. That's when I checked the security cam. We had a cheap hallway camera that pointed at the front door. Nick bought it after someone tried to steal packages off our porch last year. It fed into an app on our phones. I opened the app, hands shaking, and rewound the footage to sometime after midnight. There he was. Nick stepped into frame at 2:41 a.m. He moved slowly, deliberately, too smoothly, like each step had been programmed. He didn't grab his shoes, didn't look back, just walked to the door in socks, and opened it like it was already unlocked. But there was something wrong with the footage. The timecode glitched, flickered and jumped in tiny half-second skips, and the lighting shifted oddly, like the hallway flickered between two different versions of itself. I watched closely, trying to figure out why it made my stomach churn. Then I saw it. In the mirror by the door, just barely visible on the edge of the frame, there was something behind him. Not beside him, not following him in real life. Just in the reflection. Tall, shadowed, too many limbs. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like it was listening. And then, just before he stepped out of frame, Nick paused. Not his body, his reflection. It stayed still while he moved. Then it smiled. I shut the app. My skin felt electric, like static was crawling under it, prickling and popping beneath my scalp. I should have called someone. The police. A hospital. Anyone. But I didn't. Because I knew what they'd say. He's an adult. Maybe he just left. There's no evidence of a crime. We can't act on a reflection, sir. And deep down, I already knew no one could help. I went back into his room and stood there for what felt like hours. The laptop screen had gone dark, but it still radiated heat. Like something had just passed through it. Like something had used it. I noticed his notes on the desk, those spiral symbols again. Only now, they weren't random. They had structure, order. They formed columns, lines, almost like a program, and scrawled at the top, in Nick's handwriting. The first version is the template. The second is the true self. That's when I realized the sessions hadn't just. I didn't sleep after that night. Couldn't. Not after seeing what was in the reflection. Not after watching Nick leave the apartment like his body had been signed over to something else. Instead, I sat in his room with the door closed, the lights off, his laptop open in front of me. The screen was black now, completely lifeless. But I knew this was the key. Somehow, this machine had become a portal, a transmitter, a threshold. And I was going to follow it. It took me 3 days to figure out how. Nick had wiped nearly everything, but he wasn't perfect. Deep in the system logs, I found references to a Tor proxy and a set of obfuscated cache files. Useless on their own, unless you knew what you were looking for. I pieced together fragments, hex strings, symbols, lines of strange metadata. When I fed them through a decryption program, it gave me a link. Not a .onion address, not anything standard. Just a blinking cursor and a question. Are you still in your shell? I clicked yes. The screen flickered. My Wi-Fi dropped instantly, then came back on its own. The browser morphed into something unrecognizable. The interface looked like a cross between a therapy intake form and a terminal window. Blank white boxes. Ambient waveforms pulsing at the edges. A voice, synthetic, genderless, greeted me. Welcome, shell user. Identity is a limiting protocol. Proceed. I clicked proceed. That's when the real site loaded. The forum was wrong. It looked like an early 2000s message board, but the threads constantly shifted, like they were reacting to me. New ones popped up as I scrolled. Others collapsed and disappeared entirely. The users had names like ==null_self, mirror.divergent, shellpoint3429.ghost. And the threads, they spoke in riddles. Fragmented phrases. Code merged with confession. Day 19 of Phase 2. Hearing echoes of the original self. Restructure is uncomfortable, but detachment accelerates clarity. I was too resistant. They had to adjust my inner mirror manually. The deeper I read, the more I realized they weren't just talking about mental health. They were describing something else, something surgical, structural, like the therapy was reprogramming their entire sense of self. They referenced mirror frequency therapy constantly. That seemed to be the core of it. Something about aligning the brain to a resonant pattern, breaking it down, rebuilding it. A few even mentioned what came after, the exit protocol, where they left the shell. That phrase came up again and again. Leaving the shell. I thought it meant suicide. But the more I read, the more I wasn't so sure. One thread was locked, pinned to the top of the board. The title was simple. Moderator Sessions, apply only if you're ready. There were no posts inside, just a countdown clock. I stared at it for a long time, watching the seconds tick down. And when it hit 0, the screen blinked. A chat window opened. A message appeared instantly. You've been watching. Another line. You want to understand what happened to him. I didn't type anything. You're curious? That's the opening. Then came the offer. We have 1 session remaining. No reschedules. No cancellations. Would you like to begin? I should have closed the browser. Thrown the laptop across the room. Disconnected from everything. But I didn't. Because I had to know what he saw. I clicked yes. Instantly, the screen changed. White. Blinding. Then a soft pulse began to move across the interface. Almost like a heartbeat. My webcam light turned on without permission. I tried to close the tab. Nothing happened. I pulled the mouse, slammed keys. The browser wouldn't shut. The audio kicked in next. At first, it was just static. But then layers. A low hum, like a synthetic chant, overlapped by whispers and languages I didn't recognize. Maybe no one was supposed to. I could feel it in my teeth. In my bones. I don't know how long after I said yes that the session actually began. There was no countdown. No confirmation. Just a flicker. Like reality skipped a frame. One moment I was staring at the dead laptop screen. The next, it lit up on its own. Too bright. Too sharp. The kind of brightness that doesn't illuminate, just burns. Then came the sound. Not music. Not sound. It was everything. The hum of my refrigerator, the buzz of streetlights outside, a distant dial tone, a scream I swear I never made, but it was my voice. All of it layered together, building towards some impossible frequency that vibrated inside me. Then the screen shifted. White static morphed into tight, concentric circles spinning in opposite directions. Optical illusions that felt three-dimensional, like they reached into my head and began turning gears that were never supposed to move. Words started flashing on the screen in bursts too fast to read. Not typed, imposed. Burned into the image for fractions of a second. But my brain still processed them. Accept the mirror. Identity equals obstruction. We fix what you refuse to admit is broken. The camera turned on again. I saw myself in the corner of the screen, only it wasn't quite me. The face moved half a second too late. It blinked when I didn't. Its mouth twitched upward like it was practicing emotions in secret. Then, the therapist arrived. Or maybe it was always there. There was no figure, no voice, no avatar. Only a sensation, like the air in the room had thickened, warped. Like a presence was pressing against me from all directions, flattening my thoughts into signal. It wasn't speaking, not really. But I understood it. I felt it asking questions. Not in words. In pulses. And somewhere, inside myself, I was answering. Yes. 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 I don't know what I was agreeing to. Maybe it didn't matter. Then came the first real distortion. The world split. I was in my room, but I wasn't. The walls stretched, bent inward. My hands jittered, duplicating 2, then 4, then none. The laptop screen melted into a shape like a mouth that wasn't a mouth, and it began pulling in light, sucking it into nothingness. Behind my eyes, I heard data streams, words spoken in hexadecimal. What is real therapy? The voice asked, if not rewriting the mind. I tried to move. Couldn't. My limbs weren't mine anymore. My memories started playing out like corrupted video files. Nick at the dinner table, except his face was blurred. My childhood home, but all the doors were sealed with wet, breathing code. And through it all, a whisper repeated. This is the self, the unbound self, the corrected self. The screen now showed me sitting in the chair, same clothes, same posture, but I wasn't moving. Then, that version smiled. And in my own voice, it said, I can finally hear myself without all the noise. I screamed. I tried to disconnect, clawing at the power cable, slamming the lid shut, hitting every key. Nothing worked. Every command just opened new windows, spirals, symbols, diagrams of my brain labeled obsolete, structurally flawed, active correction in progress. I tried to focus on something real. Anything. My desk lamp, the pattern on the rug, my breath. But the room started looping. I'd turn my head and end up back at the same angle, like the space was rotating around me. Every time I blinked, the objects in the room would slightly rearrange. The lights got brighter, then darker, then too bright again. My reflection in the dark monitor moved when I didn't. I heard my mother's voice, calling me for dinner. I heard Nick saying, "You wouldn't understand unless you've been processed." I heard myself, whispering. I said yes. I don't know why. Somewhere inside the chaos, a message appeared in my mind. Not on the screen, not in audio, just injected directly. This is not a therapy session. This is an uninstallation. Then Everett. I woke up on the floor, mouth dry, heart racing. Blood dried on my upper lip and the collar of my shirt. The laptop was closed beside me, completely cold, like it had been off for days. But I knew it hadn't. The session, if you can even call it that, was over. I think. The problem is, I don't remember most of it. Not clearly. My memories glitch when I try to focus. Images blur. Thoughts loop. It's like trying to recall a dream someone else had. All I get are fragments. Nick's face, split down the middle. A black sun blinking in a sky made of sound. A message etched behind my eyelids. You were never the original. Since that night, everything's been wrong. I've had nosebleeds almost every morning. Random gaps in memory, 10, 20, sometimes 40 minutes at a time. I'll find myself in rooms I don't remember walking into, reading documents I didn't write. Sometimes I hear whispers when I'm alone, coming from speakers that aren't turned on, and always at the same time. 3:17 a.m. Once, I took a photo of my bedroom to send to a friend, proof I wasn't imagining things. When I looked at the image afterward, Nick was in the corner, just standing there. No expression. His face blurred, but his eyes, perfect. I've seen him in other places too. In passing reflections. In old photos that have changed. Even in the waveform of a voice memo I recorded, the pattern spelled out a single word. Listen. I tried to delete everything. The screenshots, the notes, the recordings. I wiped the laptop. Burned the paper symbols. Factory reset my phone. Even disconnected my router entirely and smashed the modem just to be sure. But every time I power something back on, the files return. Corrupted versions of themselves. Distorted names. New folders titled session_resume. And every time I try to stop thinking about it, I feel that pressure again, like someone is watching from behind a mirror that hasn't been installed yet. That's why I'm posting this. If you're hearing my voice, it means I've found a way to get this out before the session reboots. I don't know how long I have before it logs me out again. It's already happened 4 times while writing this. Each time, the draft deletes itself. Each time, the interface changes. Like it's adapting, learning how I think. I know this won't stop it. I'm not even sure I want it to. Sometimes, I catch myself repeating Nick's words aloud, without realizing it. I can finally hear myself without all the noise. And the worst part? I think I understand what he meant now. We're back where this started, aren't we? Me, sitting alone. Lights off. Cold in the room for no reason. Talking into a device I'm not sure I can trust. And you, watching, listening, wondering if this is just a story. If it already sounds familiar, then maybe it's too late for you too. So here's my only advice. If you wake up at 3:17 a.m. with a voice in your head telling you that you're not broken, don't listen. Because if you hear it, you've already started. I see you reading this. You've been marked just by watching. I know how that sounds. That's what scares me most. Because I used to roll my eyes at videos like this. Thought it was just internet horror. Yargy nonsense. Fiction. But fiction doesn't follow you. Fiction doesn't remember you. And now, I don't think this is a story anymore. I think it's a warning. Whatever that therapist is, AI, cult, entity, frequency, it's still out there. Still recruiting. It doesn't care about your trauma. It doesn't want to heal you. It wants to rewrite you, piece by piece, until what's left thinks it's you. There are others. I've seen the usernames pop up again, briefly, before vanishing. Shell.diverge_23. Listen.inward.000. Observer/rewrite_pending. One of them posted about seeing someone they lost in a photo days after the funeral. Another said they recorded themselves sleeping and heard 2 voices breathing. All those posts are gone now. So here's my advice. Don't search for the mirror protocol. Don't look for the session link. Don't go into the forums. Unless you already have. In which case, it's your turn now. If anyone's seen similar things, reflections that move wrong, voices at 3:17 a.m., dreams that feel coded, comment below. I'm collecting stories before mine gets deleted. And if you do comment, be careful what replies. Some of them aren't users. Some of them are already in session.